Hello and welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us for this informational webinar on the Active People Healthy Nations Champions Institute. We're just going to get started in a minute. My name is Emily Schweninger. I'll be introducing myself a little bit more in a second, but first I just wanted to let you all know we're going to start off with a presentation on the Champions Institute, and towards the end we will have a Q&A. So please feel free to use the chat if you have any comments you'd like to make directly to us, and also there is a opportunity to use the question box if you have something throughout the presentation that you are interested in hearing more about. We will be addressing those questions at the end of the webinar. So thanks again for joining us, and let's get started. Next slide. So just to introduce you all, again, my name is Emily Schweninger. I'm the Deputy Director of Thriving Communities at Smart Growth America. And I come to you with a background in public health. I've been working in health systems and management for a few years now, and applying that to the built environment. So looking at this intersection between health, equity, and the built environment. So transportation systems, land use, economic development, and all the intersections in between. We also have with us the Honorable John Robert Smith, who is leading this program. He is a Senior Policy Advisor at Smart Growth America and also the Chair at T4A. He's served for 16 years as the Mayor of Meridian, Mississippi, 20 years in local government. So he comes to us with a great deal of practical experience as a local leader and has really guided the process and design around this program, so it'll be most impactful for folks on the ground. And additionally, we have with us one of our newest team members, Ebony Vinson, who joins us with a Master of Public Administration from the University of Charleston and comes to us straight from Chattanooga, Tennessee, where she was working as with the Lead for America program as a fellow. Next slide, please. So Smart Growth America, if you are not familiar with us, we're an organization, a national organization, nonprofit, that works in this intersection of the built environment. We focus on a lot of interventions with transportation, with land use, with economic development. Thriving Communities is looking at the public health impacts of these decisions. And so we bring all of this together to look at how we can make places healthier and more prosperous for folks across the country. We are a community of programs. As you can see, you might recognize some of our programs: Transportation for America, the National Complete Streets Coalition, Locus, the State Smart Transportation Initiative, among others. So we do have a wide breadth of expertise that's represented under the umbrella of Smart Growth America. Next slide, please. The way that we conduct our work, we do provide technical assistance. For example, this program would be a form of technical assistance as we're working directly with folks on the ground to help them with their decision-making processes. But we also are on the Hill in local, at the federal level, working on advocacy, working to make policy stronger, better, more supportive of the types of initiatives and strategies that we support. And we also are constantly working to provide thought leadership in this field. So it's really a cycle. What we learn on the ground working with communities, the challenges, the barriers, the opportunities that we see, we can then take that information, take it to the Hill, work through advocacy to get better policies out there, and in the entire process be looking at data and looking at best practices, producing toolkits and all the sort of needed resources that folks might need in order to move these types of programs forward. Next slide, please. So what we're doing now with this work is it's a direct partnership with the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, their program within the Division of Nutrition, Physical Activity, and Obesity. We are supporting their work with Active People, Healthy Nation, the initiative. This partnership is directly with the National Complete Streets Coalition, which is part of this larger Smart Growth America organization. So we're working with them to support a national movement to get 27 million Americans more physically active by 2027. As you can see, this was our launch of the Active People Healthy Nation initiative with the Surgeon General, the former Surgeon General to his left, and a few of the local leaders and our CDC representative, Dr. Ruth, who is the lead of the Division of Nutrition, Physical Activity, and Obesity. And that was a congressional briefing about this initiative a few seasons ago when we were all together and maskless. Next slide, please. So why this initiative, and how does this relate to transportation, to land use, to economic development decisions in your community? Well, what's interesting is that there's more and more evidence, not only that we are less physically active than we have been in the decades past, and that Americans in particular are getting, are seeing the results of this in increases in chronic disease. But at the same time, we're recognizing, and there's more and more evidence around how the built environment and how the decisions that we're making, even at a local level, but also at a federal level, state level, are impacting, this phenomenon. Next slide, please. And so we identify the problem. One of the problems is that, our roads are dangerous by design for people who are outside of vehicles. This is one of our signature reports that we put out biannually. And what we found recently, and I just want to drop this here for anyone who might be interested, what we found recently was that pedestrian fatalities are up 45% from 2010 to 2019. And this is an emergency, it's a crisis, and it's something that needs to be addressed. And this is having a direct impact on how many people are actually getting the recommended amount of physical activity on a daily basis. Next slide, please. So this is why we're working together with the CDC to promote these strategies that work across the nation with national, state, and local partners. What you can see here is the framework and the strategies that the initiative, the Active People Healthy Nation initiative, is using. We are really focused on this top signpost piece, the activity-friendly routes to everyday destinations. This is really about connecting key destinations and assets and essential services to where people live, and making sure that getting there is safe, that it's accessible, and that it's an option that's available to people to use different modes of transportation, whether it is in a vehicle, whether it is using transit, whether it is walking, biking, rolling, or moving actively, and giving those options and creating that opportunity for people to be more physically active. All of this is founded in equitable and inclusive access, and understanding that over time there have been historic inequities, and there are historic and pervasive disparities in how people are experiencing the built environment. So all of that to say, there's a lot of work to do, and I know that those of you who have joined us are very involved at a local level and engaged with this work already. What we hope to do is be able to give you the tools to continue and to improve that work as you move forward. And I'd like to, with that, hand it to my colleague, John Robert Smith, to tell you a little bit more about the details of this program. John Robert?
Thank you so much, Emily. And I want to thank all of you who have joined us on the webinar this afternoon. As a former local elected official myself, I know how precious your time is. And again, I appreciate that you have shown interest in the Champions Institute, and if selected, you will make the commitment that it takes of time and energy to emerge a champion and to be a change agent within your community. Part of the work I do here at Smart Growth America is to provide technical assistance to communities across the country, large and small, and that has carried me to 127 different cities and towns of all sizes across the country, providing this technical assistance. And from what I have learned through that exposure in my own time as mayor in my hometown, as well as my work on Capitol Hill, is that local leaders have the power to change people's minds and change the choices that they make. If you're a champion, then you will learn new and more equitable ways to build your hometown. And in doing so, you will change the choices people make, and you will change the quality of life and the health outcomes of those very people you serve. our first Champions Institute is complete, and as you see, our 21 champions were spread across the country. They were diverse in every aspect of their service, of where they came from. Next slide. Whether they were large cities like Houston, Texas, which was the largest community represented by a council member from Houston, Texas, to the very smallest, Sparta, Georgia. All of the champions received value, and it's whether you're a large city mayor or a small city council member, all of the lessons you'll learn will be implementable in the community that you serve. Next slide, please. I think the value of the Champions Institute is captured very directly and very simply by Nick Palumbo, who was a champion in our very first institute. He's a council member from the city of Savannah, and he simply says the Champions Institute takes you from how to I know how. So you will receive those tools and the confidence to know how to make these changes within the built environment of your hometown. Next slide. So as I said, I've learned that if you want to change things, if you want to change votes on Capitol Hill, if you want to change the mood, the spirit, the belief, the enthusiasm of your hometown, it's through leveraging local leaders. So we want to change how the health of this country, and we want to change how we connect our people to the daily needs of their life. And therefore, we want to leverage you, the local leader. You have a pulpit to speak from, you have a voice to be heard, and leveraging a local leader changes not only that city or town, but can change the region. And as a champion, I want you to go back to not only your hometown, but back to your municipal association, back to your state, back to your regional leaders, and help them learn, understand, and implement good choices for the health of their people. Next slide. So as we do our work together, you will hear from national leaders that will share the lessons they have learned in their particular expertise. For example, you'll hear from my colleague, Chris Zimmerman, who served 18 years in local county government, but he is a recognized national authority in land use and the fiscal analysis needed to fully understand your community. You'll also hear from my colleague, Beth Osborne, who has worked on Capitol Hill, but also in the Department of Transportation, and is a widely sought expert on policy. She ran the first 6 rounds of the Tiger program, but also funding, because we all need partners to make dramatic changes in our community, partners at the state level, but also partners at the federal level. Next slide. So the things you'll learn, I mentioned land use. So you'll have a very hands-on application of land use techniques, the understanding of the importance of where you place things within your community. Are they going to be affordable for the future for you as a government to serve them? Do they really connect all of the people of your community? Is there a special eye that you have used in your land use to make sure it's equitable to the different neighborhoods and the different citizens of your community, regardless of financial status? And you will be able to apply these lessons learned through implementation. So even if it is a temporary project, such as this roundabout that you see in South Bend, Indiana. I think you know the Secretary of Transportation is the former mayor of South Bend, Pete Buttigieg. This was a project in South Bend, Indiana, to demonstrate that yes, you can do a roundabout there, and it in fact will work. Next slide. So we give you the tools. We give you the tools because you have work to do. The Champions Corner is a section of our website we have created for you specifically. It is open to the public, but there you will find the literature, the courses, the information that you need, the very tools to take you through developing an ordinance of complete streets, to take you through demonstration projects, to take you to full implementation. This will be a service to you. I can tell you in some of the courses that we will offer, there will be homework assigned, and you will find all of those reading materials and best ideas contained there in the Champions Corner. Next slide. So our process, I've told you there'll be expert-led courses, but it's more than just hearing those of us who will be the course leaders talk to you. There's a lot of peer learning involved as well, because you will actually be speaking to each other through each one of these classes. And some of the most productive conversation is actually the lessons you will bring to the rest of the class as your imagination or your memory is stirred by the work we do. So it's not only learning from experts, it's learning from your peers that are in active service today. And you will build a network of colleagues that you will carry forward from the Champions Institute that will be of great value to you moving forward. Next slide. You know, we can always learn from those who have done something before we have attempted it, and you will learn their successes and their failures. And through six of the classes, I call them, the modules, you will be instructed and you will have this back and forth among your class members. But the 7th module will be about you developing a specific community work plan based on all that you've learned during the Champions Institute. Again, it may be the redevelopment of city policy so that you get out of your own way in accomplishing your vision for a better connected, a more walkable community. It could be enacting a complete streets ordinance. It could be engaged in a demonstration project. It could be the implementation of a project you've already planned, but now much better crafted based on the lessons you've learned in the Champions Institute. Then in Module 8, you will report back the results of the project you have undertaken. So this is designed to give you the tools, the information, the courage, the imagination to develop a project, to amend an existing project, and then to assess your outcomes from the project you've chosen. And we will share those outcomes not only with CDC and your fellow peers within the Institute, but we'll also share them on a larger national scale for those who follow the work of Transportation for America and Smart Growth America. So it can raise you your profile among your fellow communities and those who are seeking good, healthy, quality places to live. Next slide. So I want to leave you with an example of a project from this first Champions Institute. This is the city of Oxford, Mississippi. I know it well. I'm a graduate of the University of Mississippi. So Oxford was my hometown through my time at the university. Oxford had an ongoing planned project for improving the streetscape of East Jackson Street that you see here. But Oxford took the lessons and the techniques they had learned within the Champions Institute to adjust it, to amend it, to expand it. There were issues they realized they had not fully taken into account as they had initially developed this conceptual plan. So this shows you an amended and improved plan that they are now proceeding to implementation. They have been successful in achieving the funding, and they already realize from the public enthusiasm of just seeing this planned project, the additional streets radiating out from the town square, that they want to work to implement a complete street with bike access and pedestrian friendly access, and their eyes open to a more equitable design and development, and certainly a much more accessible design and implementation. So these are the kind of things you can learn and actually have tangible projects that show the value of your time spent becoming a champion. And I will now turn, I believe that's my last slide, I will turn it to my colleague, Ebony, who will take you through the application process. Ebony.
Thank you so much, John Robert. Sorry, my screen keeps switching for some reason. Okay, alrighty. Before I hop into more information about the application process, I want to make sure to reiterate that if you have any questions, make sure that you drop them in the question box so that we can be sure to address them as we get into the Q&A portion. So just a little bit more info about the application process and the eligibility requirements. In order to apply for the Institute, you have to be a local elected official, including mayors, city council members, county commissioners, and tribal representatives, and other local elected officials as well. You must be from the USA, including the territories and the District of Columbia. Another key eligibility requirement is to be sure that you can commit the required time to participate in the Institute, as there are a couple of different events and different things that you will have to attend, and you will not be able to delegate that to another person, another staff person. So the person that is applying for the Institute would have to be sure to be in attendance for those. And then the next requirement is to you don't have to be an expert, obviously, but you should have an interest in developing your capacity and expertise in complete streets and activity-friendly routes to everyday destinations. Another piece that I want to emphasize about the application process, as you are in the process of applying online, you will see that there is a form that is on the web page. However, as you are going through and applying, make sure that you start a document outside of the form so that you can back your information up and then just import those responses into the form so that you can make sure that you have a copy for yourself as well, and that the web browser doesn't glitch on you and kick you out. So the next few things that I want you to pay attention to for the application process is these three key dates. So the main date is for July 15th, which is the application deadline. Applications are due by 11:59 p.m. Eastern time. And then the next deadline will be when we announce the selection of who has been chosen for the Institute, which will be August 17th. And then the final deadline will be, or the final date will be in September, which will be when the Champions Institute begins.
Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. Thanks again. We've gotten a few questions. So I would love to ask John Robert to join me again for the Q&A and Ebony, and we'll see if we can get some of these questions answered. And I'll start off with the first one, which is always a good question. And I'd love to hear John Robert answer this one, which is, how much time will I have to commit to this program?
So there are 6 instructional courses that will be offered, and you will commit to attend each of those. In the first Champions Institute, those were 2-hour sessions. They'll be, as I said, very interactive, not only with us and other nationally recognized figures that can speak to the issues, but will also your interaction with your fellow elected leaders. So let me be clear. I know that your time is important, but none of our time is so important that we can't pull away an hour or two to learn new ways to invest in our communities and in the citizens we serve. You cannot be on camera and then turn it over to your chief administrative officer or your public works director. It'll be fine for them to be in the room with you, and I encourage your involvement of the staff. But you are the champion, and you will be the champion that is certified and emerges from the process. So when you look at 6 modules, and then you will have 6 months to deliver the project you have designed, whether it's an ordinance or improving an existing project that you will implement. You've got an hour for each of the 6, then you've got work to do at home to develop the planned project, and then you will report back on the implementation of that project. And I want to hit on one other thing. You don't only learn how to design, for example, your project. You're going to learn ways that you pay for it. You're going to learn the return on investment for the investing in complete streets to your community, to your citizens, and to the private sector. And you're also going to learn how to communicate that value to those stockholders, if you will, the people that you serve in your community, because the buy-in must be across the board.
Thank you, John Robert. And I will quickly answer another question that is a little bit of an add-on, which is not only about the time commitment, but trying to understand the sessions and whether there will be travel versus online. At this time, due to the COVID situation, we will be unfortunately hosting this virtually. And we have no current plans to hold in-person trainings until further notice. However, we do hope to be able to bring our champions all together at some point, but we can make no exact promises when that would be. And all of that is depending on a lot of different factors. So the quick answer is, at this stage, these will be virtual engagements. Of course, we've all become very adept at this virtual world, and so we do our best to still make it as interactive as possible and make it as engaging as possible, despite the fact that we won't be able to be together in person. The next question I would like to point to Ebony, which is, there is somebody asking whether this presentation will be available for them to share with their township supervisor and other leadership going forward.
Yes, absolutely. So we will be sending a follow-up email that will include some of these links, as well as the link to watch this presentation after the fact, and then include the presentation in that as well. And then I will also make sure that that is added to the blog page that you access to apply for the Institute.
Perfect. Thank you, Ebony. And I think this question might be a good one for John Robert. Are there any opportunities for funding attached to this program?
No, there are no opportunities from this program for funding directly attached to it. However, as I said, you will learn federal programs that are available to address funding needs for you. There will be state programs also. You will learn ways of engaging the private sector in funding these. So we are very sensitive not to just give you great ideas, bold visions, excitement, and then have it fall on the fact that there's no way to financially implement it. So we do give you the tools and the resources for you to be able to provide seek your own funding and invest your own funding and those of the private sector in your community to achieve your vision.
Thank you, John Robert. And we just got a question in about somebody asking about their eligibility. And to reiterate, you have to be a local elected leader. So if your position is not an elected one, then we will not be able to open this program to you. But we do encourage you to go to the Champions Corner and access some of those resources, including some of our distance learning modules and courses like those. There is also, and to answer another quick question, there is no fee to participate in the Champions Institute. Again, this is provided without cost through our partnership with the CDC's Division of Nutrition, Physical Activity, and Obesity in support of their Active People Healthy Nation initiative. So we have to thank them for making this possible. And there is no fee in order to participate. The next question, John Robert, how many people will be selected for this program?
So we believe a number somewhere between 20, 25 is a good class. We had 21 before. We tried to contain it to 20, but honestly, we had one additional that we just couldn't leave out of that first set of champions. So somewhere between 20 and 25. We want it large enough to have impact, but small enough so that you get individual attention, and that during each course, as you speak one to the other, and the enthusiasm builds around shared stories. We don't want it so large that you feel you're not heard. So we think this is a good number. And I'll answer this, Emily, from your previous question, because it came up last time. If you've been elected, but you haven't taken office, then you're still an elected official. So you can.
To be specific about this question, it's a trustee. This person is a trustee at a large city college that's located in and on 9 campuses and centers across the city. Would they be eligible?
No, they're not a local elected official. And we're talking about, again, city, county, tribal. And the reason is, to implement changes in the built environment, you have to have the people who are going to raise their hand and vote to a project and to commit the funding and the will and the investment of the city or county or tribal staff to complete it. So we want to make sure we have those who are financially charged with the oversight of those budgets that'll be needed, and the leaders of the vision in a community.
Thank you, John Robert. And another question, will the classes be live during the day or night? And considering people who have, another daytime obligations.
So the classes are live. And since you saw the spread of communities across the country, we will pick an hour where we think we can serve both the far East Coast and the far West Coast. Obviously, the chosen hour may not be convenient to everyone, but again, you're talking about a 2-hour block of time, and we can make that work. And I was a mayor in a strong mayor form of government, so time was valuable. 2 hours spent in this kind of educational opportunity, if it had existed at my time in office, would have been invaluable to me. So Emily, help me remember, was it 3 East?
We held our sessions on Thursdays from 4 to 6 p.m. Eastern time, which worked for most folks. And that was us sort of negotiating the time difference, et cetera.
And, we're mindful that most city council meetings around the country occur on Tuesdays. And, Monday is in preparation for those in many ways. And then Wednesday in lots of locations, people in the community are dedicated to other activities, church activities perhaps. And then on Fridays, you're wanting to get out of City Hall or out of your office and begin your weekend. So Thursday seemed to be the best time for the group.
Yeah, and I also want to go back to the previous question and encourage anyone who is not eligible to apply themselves for this program to reach out to local elected officials. And certainly, as you can see by the design of this program, this is work that is going to require more than just the one person who is participating in the Champions Institute, but they will need that coalition around them, that group of supporters and that critical team that will help them get some of these projects moved through the pipeline. So definitely, you know, if you're not eligible, please encourage your local leaders, your local elected officials to apply. The next question is again about eligibility, and I'll go ahead and answer it. It's how about a midterm appointed official, city council who is running for election this year? If you are currently elected, we will accept your application. John Robert, do you have anything to add?
No, assuming that the election will not be completed before the filing date, then you need to be elected. If the election is completed before the selection process and you're successful, then you could certainly amend to that you are now an elected official. But those are kind of one-off. You have something that you think might fit within the time frame of you getting elected, let us know, and if it can work, we'll let you know. And if not, there will be another round of champions. Now, on the issue of not being a member, but you're or an elected official, but you're keenly interested in these issues. So let's say you're a bike advocate, or you represent and you yourself are physically challenged to move about your community. That doesn't mean you can't recruit a local elected official as the champion to apply, and then you could attend all of the workshop sessions and be in the room and with them and hold them accountable as well. So there's a way for you to be involved. You just couldn't be selected as a champion yourself.
Thank you, John Robert. And we are coming to the end of the session. I think we've answered most people's questions. And I just want to thank everybody for joining us. Again, as we mentioned, this informational webinar will be available on our website on the blog, where you can also find a link to the application. I'm going to drop it again once more in the chat, so it is easily available. We will be following up once again to everyone who registered for this webinar. We'll be sending you some follow-up information, including again the link to this informational webinar, which also will also include the link to apply. And once again, please encourage folks, local elected leaders in your community. You know, if you have any specific questions, you can reach out to us directly. That information will be included again in the follow-up email. And we really look forward to seeing some great applications. We've had a tremendous experience working with the local elected leaders this year, and in a challenging year at that. And really, you know, it's an opportunity, again, to reiterate, these are live sessions. Unfortunately, we will not be in person, but we still have the experience of being in person, in that we have real conversations. This is not going to be a webinar in the sense of just a reel of a presentation happening. This is going to be interactive. It's going to be conversations. We want to hear what's happening. We want to learn from you. We want you to learn from each other. And we've got a lot of information to share, so we can work together to achieve some of these strategies and goals that we've been discussing. So once again, I want to thank you on behalf of Smart Growth America, and allow my colleagues to thank you as well. And we will sign off. Thank you once again. Everybody have a wonderful afternoon.
Stay safe.
Be well.